So it's going to seem like I'm rushing through this, however I have just recorded a 9-minute video and my phone crashed and didn't save it, so just in case that happens again I'm going to try and go a little bit quicker. So I have shared a few posts about my sewing projects this week, so I thought I would do a little video about how I merge my sewing hobby with my planning hobby. So I like to use my L&L planner, my Little Leopardy Ludori, because it's wedge shaped when there's no other books in it. I like to use it on its own for my sewing, so I will use it as a sort of keepy hidey holder for my little notebooks where I've started to jot down things that I want to do, otherwise I forget that it was an idea and then I just don't do it for months and the time is gone. So for example, I wanted to make one of these like hobo totes. This is a merge of a couple of tutorials that I've seen and a very basic drawing of how I wanted it to go down, and it turned out pretty good. So as I said, this is wedge shaped, so I can sort of keep tabs on this when I'm sewing. I'm quite a messy sewer, so I'll be sewing on my machine, pushing pins across the table, notebooks disappear, and then I'm like, oh my god, where's the gun? And getting all stressed out. This means that it's quite chunky, it falls on the floor, it goes with a thud, and it keeps the page open for me, which is perfect. So crude little terrible drawings and ideas that don't really work. So for example, didn't end up with handles that I could tie, so I doodled here afterwards stitch handles, and that worked much better. I'm going to try and work out if I can maybe fudge it and make these corners long enough to tie. I will get back to you on whether I managed to do that. This is called an origami tote, so you need a piece of fabric that is 3 times longer on the long edge than it is the short edge, because you need 3 squares. And I quickly grabbed this during my last video out of the bin, just so I could show you. When you've got your rectangle, this little diagram basically means you're going to take this corner up to make a square, but this corner down, so you end up with a parallelogram, maybe? I don't know. And then this will be a square rather than a rectangle if you've done it right. And then these flop up like this, which is this little shape. And then that is effectively, once you've sewn these 2 edges, that is your bag. And then, like I said, couldn't do the knot, so I ended up sewing it. So all I did was, when it was inside out, pinch these diagonal edges together and just sew them like that, and then turned it right side out, and it was like this. You don't have to, but I did. You can box your corners. So you just measure, I think I did 5 centimetres either side, boxed it. It just gives you like a squared off flat bottom almost. You could put like a piece of plastic in there to keep it a bit flatter, but the amount of stuff that I shove in a bag, it's not going to stay flat with a piece of steel, so that's pointless. And then with the handles, I made this little sort of tube. Yeah, look how good my square is. Told you I'm not very good at sewing. And then sort of laid the 2 square corners like this and sewed in a little square. Once I'd put this over the end, because then you can just sort of slide the little sausage over and it covers the top. So yeah, I'm going to try. Not that I'm going to have much time now because my husband is going back to work and I'll be going back to work too. If I get like an hour or so, I'm going to attempt it again, but with 3 individual squares, is my idea anyway. And I think what I might do is make the opposite squares more like diamonds. So they've got like a point, which will give me a longer handle to sort of tie. If you've made this bag and you've done the same thing, help a sister out and let me know what you did. So that was my bag. I also made a little eco roll, or travel roller, something I wanted to make for ages. We like to, we've always used reusable shopping bags, so the 5p charge when it came about years ago wasn't an issue for us because we've always used them. Oh, look at me, middle class, using my reusable bags. No, it's just because I'm a bag hoarder, and I like to be cute and fashionable when I'm out, so I've always used reusable bags. But this is so easy to make. If I can make it, you can make it. And as this little picture shows, it's just a long piece of fabric. So this was all one piece. And then I just sort of folded some of it up, stitched. I didn't stitch along there afterwards, that would sew it shut. I stitched it first, then folded it up and stitched little pockets in. So, folded the bottom up after putting this cute little bias trim on. It was like 2 long pieces of fabric, sewn around with a gap, turned it through, ironed it out. Then once I'd folded it up, I did like this flat stitch, so that sandwiched the 2 pieces together, and this just finished it off quite nicely, especially with the blue thread that I had. And when I was doing this bit, I just folded, the ribbon goes to about here, folded a long piece of ribbon and sort of caught it in between the threads. And then, I say measured, eyeballed little pockets to put knives, forks, spoons, and baby things, because they're a bit fatter, chunkier. Dot's little spoons can go in there. And then this little flap you don't have to do, but I find that when it's rolled up, there's less chance of your stuff coming out if it comes out the wrong way. She says as it's happening there, when it's chunkier it might hold in a little bit better. Hindsight, I probably would make that flap a little bit longer next time, but there was an error with the original cutting of the original pieces that we won't talk about. And then one thing that I didn't put in here, but that's only because I had the fabric cut already, was I sewed myself a really simple headscarf. You might notice in pictures I wear like retro style bandanas a lot, just because they're really good at hiding greasy hair. I'm not very talented at hairstyle, so generally it's hide it. Yeah, so that is just a really simple, cute little tropical headscarf that I made, and I've got loads of fabric that ideally I need to cut and do the same thing with, so I can actually wear and appreciate my pretty fabrics, much like this piece of leopard print I use here in all my pictures. This is just, I can't even remember where I got this, that's terrible. A big piece of fabric, and I don't know, maybe I'll use that for my next little bag project. But yeah, so this little house book where I started jotting down things like how I wanted to make my curtains in the kitchen months ago, it's kind of become more of a hobby book. And what I like about this is I have the measurements here of how big I wanted to make them. I say wanted, I did make them. So if sorry, I got cut off. So when I go to the charity shops, I often see really nice fabric and I'll be like, oh, I don't really know, oh, should I get it, should I not? And I'll either buy it and keep it forever and not use it, or I won't buy it and then I'll have buyer's regret. So when I've got measurements with me for stuff that I know that I want to do, that means I can, if I've got my tape measure with me, I can measure it, or I can ask them to measure it. I can be like, oh, do you know what, they make really cute curtains for the kitchen and there's enough fabric here. So that's why I'm a bit of a Luddite when it comes to stuff like this. I like to have the measurements and stuff for things I definitely need to do with me. Like I'll have measurements for the gap in the bathroom that I need a little unit for, just that if I do happen to see one, I can grab it if it's the right measurements. So that is how I sort of merge my 2 little hobbies together. And if you like sewing, please share some of your easy sewing projects with me, because if I get a chance to use my machine, I like to whip it out and try and do something. And there's probably only so many handbags that I need to make for myself. Please let me know if you'd like any more information on how my vegan planner is doing as well. There's not very many vegans in the planner community. I have recently just met one and we've made friends, but it would be really nice to see if there's any others, and to share my experience with my lovely soft cork Ludori, because at the moment it's holding up really nicely and it's completely passed all my expectations. So hopefully I'll be able to do another video when I've improved on that other bag. Bye!